Greetings, everyone. My name is Charles Kovach, the not safe for work presidential candidate campaigning for more direct democracy. And because simply going around and saying, "Psst, hey, you want to try a little direct democracy? Just a taste of it. Yeah, first time's free." Over and over and over again, I make videos talking about current events and other topics that interest me as a way of garnering attention towards this campaign and this idea. So let's begin. Many people have probably seen John Oliver's show on Sunday or a video on YouTube as a little bit about voting. Yes, tomorrow is Election Day, or as I like to call it, Choose a Better Oppressor Day, because that's what it really is. So most of what you're going to be voting on now is for local elections. And I don't know about you, but I have a very hard time trying to find information on local candidates. In fact, I didn't even get my sample ballot until, what was it, a week or two ago? Not a whole lot of time to look into this shit if you have a busy life. But yeah, I know very little about these candidates. It's hard for me to find even a website or anything like that, and this is something that I would like to change in the future. But of course, like I said before, I've been getting text messages. I don't know why all of a sudden I'm getting text messages to say, hey, vote this team because it's the team that matters. Don't worry about their individual things. Let's all follow a flag or whatever, because that's how democracy works. Speaking of how democracy works, I was watching video of a protest over the weekend. And I noticed something that I noticed more and more in certain protests. That the people that were there protesting didn't want to talk to anybody who wanted to report on it, regardless of what their position is. And it was very easy to tell in this case, in particular case, that it was the people that were part of the protest. Signs kind of give it away. So this makes me have to ask the question, what the hell are you protesting for? And are you actually protesting if you don't want people to hear your message? Regardless of whether or not they're going to twist it, because people are going to twist it anyways. And even if you believe that the person who is coming up to you and talking to you and reporting on your protest is somebody that is going to twist your words, or disagree with you, or even just question you, why is your initial reaction to attack them? Because that's what happened in this particular case. Somebody walked up with a bullhorn and blared the sirens in the person's ear. Make no mistake, that is count as battery, because that is something that causes physical injury. And don't say you didn't know. But if you don't want anybody to hear about what you're trying to do or what you're trying to accomplish, how is it a protest then? You give legitimacy to these idiotic arguments that say, oh, you know what, go protest somewhere where it doesn't bother me. That's not the point of a protest. The protest is to bring to light and to bring to people's attention things that either are or could one day affect them. So I see a very interesting disparity between the extreme differences. The go protest somewhere where I don't have to see it, and the don't film my protesting. It's very curious. And ultimately, it undermines situations like these, and these are not commonplace, not yet at least. But situations like these undermine the very concept of protesting to begin with. And then you have to ask the question, why are you protesting? Well, if I can't ask why you're protesting, or if I can't have a discussion with you, why the fuck would I support your cause? And are you protesting a event, a piece of legislation, a person? I mean, if you're there to make a bunch of noise because you're pissed off at a certain person and you don't want press to know about it, That sounds more like organized harassment than protesting. Let's just be honest here, okay? And once again, I'm not here to score brownie points with anybody. I'll tell you exactly how the fuck it is either way, whether you like it or not. So, when you're going out to protest, I suggest that you actually go out to protest. Notice, one thing through this whole discussion, or this whole, really, monologue, because it's not really discussion, unless you're yelling at the screen, because you want me to shut up already, or, I got something sticking out of my nose. Okay. Yeah, so unless you're yelling at the screen, it's more of a monologue. But anyways, one thing you may not have noticed, or maybe you have, if you're a very attentive person, is that I didn't mention anything about what the protest was for, who was there, why the people were there, or any specific details. Just food for thought. Another thing I would like to talk about is this leaked document, the Yellow Book from Sidewalk Labs, which is owned by Alphabet, which owns Google. That whole conglomerate and all that stuff. So basically, the idea runs like this, is that they think they should have a city where they run everything pretty much exactly the way China runs everything, with a social credit score system, except for this one is a lot more invasive, I believe, than China's. Because you get rewarded for giving up all your personal information. If you don't give up any personal information, you get nothing. If you this is on top of the whole credit score or the social credit idea. So the more you tell about yourself, the more you can do in the town. And if you don't buy into their system, you can't even do something like take a cab somewhere or pay for anything. Who the fuck would want to live in a town like this? I'm just curious, really. I mean, some of the things sound like super convenient, but remember, convenience always comes with a price. Just like anything else. Do I need to show the sword again? But yeah. But the reality is that we may not have much of a choice in this unless we get together and act now. Because this is a very large company, very powerful company, and there are people with a lot of influence that are behind it, and they pretty much do whatever the fuck they want. And who are they accountable to? No one. Not a single person. And I just want you to remember situations like this when you talk those idiotic slogans like, get government out of our lives. Because when you generalize like that, this is what happens. We have to come together as a people and stop these things from happening. Otherwise, they're just going to keep happening to us over and over and over again. And I'm not like many of you people. I don't have anything to lose. I don't have kids. I'm not going to have kids. I don't have anything invested in the future except for growing old and dying one day. But many of you have kids, and you want to see them grow up and make something of their lives. But we're at a point in our society where that's not going to happen anymore unless you put aside idiotic ideologies such as ethnicism, racism, whatever you want to call it, sexism, letting things like religion or whether or not you like Neapolitan ice cream separate you. This is a time where more than ever, we as a people have to come together. And we have to set aside our differences because those are the weapons that are being used against us. And it has been this way for thousands of years. When are we going to learn? And when you say statements like, oh, we need the government out of our lives, you have to realize one thing. Whenever you take power from somewhere, you give it to somebody else. Sometimes it might be yourself, but unless you specifically say that, it's probably not you. And as I've said before, whenever you hear people that have a lot of fame and money and power saying that, oh, government's a problem, typically means because they know that they're doing something that the government can affect them negatively, personally. And they're trying to get you on their side so that they can screw you over more. And we've seen this with just about every politician, at least a major one. We've seen it with every president in the past 20 years. We've seen it with a lot in Congress. And I'll let you go through your own state's history. I mean, I live in New Jersey, and it's one of the most corrupt states. I had Christine Todd Whitman as a governor. And I'll let you remember what she did. So, it's situations like this, yet another reason why I'm doing this campaign. Because, at the end of the day, the government is still accountable to the people. And what we have now, by corporate control of everything, is somebody who says, oh, hey, look at that, I fucked you over. Good luck trying to vote in somebody that I can't bribe to do something about it, because right now the law says nothing, and I can do it as much as I want. You see where the whole blanket getting government out of our lives negatively affects you? And sure, there is a legitimate argument for regulations and idiotic regulations and laws and so forth, but if you use regulations in general, well, that can mean anything. And the reality is that most of the regulations that affect our lives negatively are ones that were put there by corporations. And many of the laws that affect us negatively were put there by people who have something to lose by us having freedom. And again, obviously this doesn't mean all things, but you see things like loss of right of habeas corpus and right to protest and so forth. Average people didn't make these things happen. People like you and me didn't make these things happen. It's the same people that we've been fighting with over and over, or we should have been fighting with over and over and over again for almost the entirety of civilization. And that's why I want a more direct democracy. And if a more direct democracy is something that you are interested in, then please spread the word about this campaign and this concept. And I thank you for your time.